So, when Rhodes was given the charter, we are going to look at the colonization process and the actual processes which took place at the end. So, when Rhodes was given the charter was the permission he was given to colonize Zimbabwe. He went on to organize what we call the Pioneer Column. When you're talking about the Pioneer Column, we are simply referring to Mawaites akatanga kuyogara muno muZimbabwe. If I would open a college, my students are not they are called the pioneer students. So I think we all know that Zimbabwe was colonized by the whites, right, by the British. So the first British who came in Zimbabwe, and that was arranged by Rhodes Bisak Company, were what we called the Pioneer Column. So that Pioneer Column was carefully chosen. Like people had to apply to be part of that Pioneer Column, since they were going to start a new life in present-day Zimbabwe. So, armed with the charter, Rhodes proceeded to. So the first step was to get Lobengula's signature on the RAD concession. Then, secondly, after acquiring that, he went on to acquire the charter. Then after getting the charter, he proceeded to assemble an army of occupation called the Pioneer Column. So the recruitment began soon after the granting of the charter. So they met at Maklauzi. It is down the SA of Botswana. I really don't know, I forgot. But it's Maklauzi River, where they assembled, and each pioneer was even given military training, because they thought that they might encounter some obstacles along the way. So on 6 June 1890, the British High Commissioner of the Cape gave his authority that the march could start. They wanted to have a peaceful occupation of Mashonaland. Remember, Zimbabwe was divided into two then, not the 10 provinces that we have now. At that time, we only have Mashonaland and Matabeleland. But kumatebeleland vangowanetsana lobhingula ende mabudira vakaita thingi takataura nyaya yekuti vana Thompson vakaita zvekutiza, mabudira vakaita, mabudira vakaita zvekutiza, vakaita zvekusverera. So already papagara pane kamutaudzo kakapo nalobhingula. So pakupinda kwavakaita muZimbabwe havana kuda kushandisa nzira yekumatabeleland. Pioneer Column iyi vari kushandisa the Mashonaland route, which means vakauya nekusaidi rekunana irirana masvingwe rinoiti side rekuno. That's the Mashonaland side. But Lobengula ainzi angaine his influence like extended towards even some parts of Mashonaland, right? So Frederick Courtney Selous guided the pioneers because of his knowledge of the country as a hunter, and Lieutenant Colonel Pennyfather, who was deputized by Captain Willow Blow, led the whole group. So the column was made up of 3 groups. The first group is called the Pioneer Corps. It was made up of about 200 individuals with varied skills. Like in these groups, there were prospectors, there were settler farmers, there were miners, there were doctors, there were carpenters, there were lawyers, vanhu vane trades or vane skills akawanda, because they want to start a new life in Zimbabwe. Obviously kuchanga kuchigara vanhu vachada kuzotsvaga malawyer, vanhu vachada kuzotsvaga maprinter, vanhu vachazoda vanhu vanowanakidza vaentertainer nevanotamba cricket ndizvo. So this was the main group, or this was the core group, which was to form the nucleus of the new white community in Zimbabwe, and it was led by Major Frank Johnson, who commanded it. So the group consisted of volunteers chosen from thousands of applicants from all over Europe and South Africa. So these people, since they were moving along the way, they were supported by a strong group of 500 police. They were supported by a strong group of 500 police, and this group was promised 3,000 hectares and 15 gold claims. And their duty was to accompany and protect the Pioneer Corps during the march to Mashonaland and after establishing the new settlement. And again, there was a strong force of the 200 Ngwato warriors led by Kama's brother to support the group. There were some Ngwato warriors supporting them. Yes. So their role was to help in the clearing of the road, because by that time, so maitofamba muchikura nzira, mutofamba nematemo nemapiki nechi muchikura nzira kuti vanhu vafambe, so they could also help in heading the cattle and taking care of wagons and horses. So when they were at the border, Lobengula sent his intelligence and they told him that a large army of whites was coming. So Lobengula agabaudzwa was pane whites ari kuuya, and according to Davidson, Lobengula sent his protest. Lobengula said that why, if you say so, I've given you the whole country, do you come in like thieves? Because Lobengula regarded himself as the king of both the Shona and the Matabeleland in one way or the other. So he had kuti muda kupindire munyika muchita zvekusvierera nyatsai kupfuura nekunoko ndizvo. So while protesting, he felt diplomacy would still work. He also immediately aifunga kuti pamwe vakaita zvekutaurana futi vanogononzwisana kuti vai varungu vouya vachimukutira vakawanda kudai. So he sent one of his indunas called Umshete. He was supposed to meet the British High Commissioner, and he gave the Ndebele protest kuti vanhu venyu vakupinda munyika medu vakawanda and hatosiziva kuti vari kudei. So Lobengula again pane mapromises angakaitwa paRat concession, and he had also accepted the first consignment from the Rat concession, which was like 1,000 rifles. So this protest was sort of a sabotage. So Lobengula sent yet another protest. He said that he asked why were so many warriors camped at McLeod's. That was his question. Yes. Like, if he went on to say, did I commit any fault that you are coming into the country? And did I kill any white person in my land? And like, did the whites lost anything along the way? You know. So Jameson had to reply that to Lobengula that he had orders to march to Mashonaland and using the road the king had approved. So his point was no. Of course, we are getting into the country, but we are avoiding you crossing the roads. We are not passing through Matabeleland. We are going to use the Mashonaland route. That was the conversation they had. So 4 weeks later, while the pioneers were already on their march, another protest was sent, and this time the answer came from Pennefather, and the answer was less tactful. So Lobengula, when he probed them, when he was asking them all those questions, pekutanga vaipindura zviri diplomatic zvineka kunyara mukati, but apa ndipo wakazonyatsobudisa pachena kuti aiwa tikutopinda whether you like it or not. So Pennefather, Colonel Pennefather even said, I cannot stop or return. I have orders to go to Mashonaland and must obey them. If king wishes to kill or attack us, there's no problem. I cannot help it. You gave this road and I'm avoiding your crows and people. That's what they said. You are using this road. You are the ones who actually gave it to us, number one. Number two, and we are actually avoiding your palace, you know. So the march started from McLeod's and then Fort Tule. Fort Tule, I think it's Paintbridge, if I'm not mistaken. Then they moved in Banya Island, crossing a number of small rivers, and more precisely Lundi River on 1 August 1890. Then on 14 August, they crossed Tokwe River. Then they arrived in Masvingo. Masvingo was called Fort Victoria by then. And then they declared it the second major settlement. So Zavaita, Pawaifamba Waipa to establish a Kanzibu, which means so up to this time they had never met an attack from the belly. But one got received a threats cheat. So Fort Victoria was named after the what? British Queen Victoria. So when they were moving, they could use like flashlights to scare away enemies and wild animals. So from Fort Victoria, they moved about 100 miles north. That's when they established Fort Charter Chief. So from Fort Charter, one branch of agenda in Fort Milseta should be Chipingi. So I'm going to that's where they went. So they even called it the Fort Charter, which is present day chief. Charter, it was meant to glorify the charter. So they were now much further away from the rebellion, and like the prospects of attacks were very less. But they had all calculated distance in the chief. So on 11 September 1890, that's when they crossed the Unyani River, and on 12 September they established Fort Victoria, which is present-day Harare. It was named after the then British Prime Minister Lord Salisbury. So on 12 September 1890, pakopi tikapfura pamupedzanamo pane kopi iripa pakopi kakomoka kana kubatana nemashops emaspace mundoka pane kopi papa. Even up to now it's also a secured area. Mkopi meyangukwirwa zviro zvemanhu zvechiwaiwai ndipo vakabva to raise the what the Union Jack. Vanhu vakaisa flag. Saka iwo kuona flag yeZimbabwe papolice station kana pachikoro zviri kureva kuti Zimbabwe ndo iri kutonga. So ukaonayo utane flag yeBotswana pasiri paembassy, wona flag yeBotswana yakaiswa paHarare haya, it means it kutongwa neBotswana. Flag is a very powerful symbol. So when they hoisted the Union Jack, vari kuedzobuditsa pfungwa yekuti aiwa isusu tisita kutonga chinhu chachedu. Right. So Salisbury became the main center and the capital of the new settlement even up to now. And as Chaminuka had predicted, right, and vasina mapi. I want vasina mapi because they pick them at house. That's what is being believed. So he said the nearless whites had taken over his country without a fight. So the Shona looked at these people as trading partners, just like the Portuguese. So the kumatebele ndo kwakwatu vanga vadiniwa tatingira topinda, and they were even prepared for war. Even the Amajaya, they were agitated. So Lobengula had to restrain them. Lobengula wanted it to be peaceful. So let us look at the problems faced by the pioneers along the way. They experienced the problems like heat, especially the southern part, snakes, flies, and so on. I've never been to Chiredzi, but ndina mining wangu, mningina wamai wangu. I think wakazoshare 2012. Wakambogara uchiredzi waindoudza nyaya dzekuchiredzi vota uchiredzi mawani kunopisa mosquito agi. It's in the law of health, So their movement was restricted by clicking upon trees and the process of cutting down trees to create roads for wagons and horses, and even their horses were even attacked by lions. And again, one wherever you found very insecure, by to out at any moment it no going to attack when the Mandebele. So they traversed through rocky land and crossed difficult rivers with heavy wagons, and a number of pioneers even died along the way. And according to David, this was disheartening and demoralizing. But they were so happy that the journey was also completed without a loss of a single life. Although I don't think it's true. That's how we spend on Mokafa. When I just found someone who know Komoro, but what we want, Varumuka, Washinoro is like suicide. Let's look at the muscles of history. Right, so that's it for this lesson. So, Yatula Bati Mangwana Agreements Anglo-Ndebele war causes. We are going to mainly touch on the causes. And what are we going to look into? We are going to look into a situation whereby the whites, Zimbabwe, I said, was divided into two, Mashonaland and Matabeleland. So the whites had reached the Mashonaland part. Remember, they even promised some pioneers that they were going to give them land and some claims of gold. Of course, on this part, they managed to get them some land, but the gold part was an issue. Because beside Zimbabwe, side kuna gold rakawanda still. Really goes out kuna pina lunga nebunana. But gold regime rakawanda kuside. No stretch after the gold the dike. So utangira na check tukado na kwekwe. Like our mine side kuna na matebele ndo kwa kasara gold. So wanga wagunzu ende pakato kufamba ruma ikuti Lobengula's palace was on a hill of gold. So they just had to get rid of him. So that they could take the gold and the fate in the Ndebele cattle. That's why we had the Anglo-Ndebele war. It was a war between the British and the Ndebele. Those are some of the reasons. So that's it for today.